Hey everybody, I am back again looking at more question and answer. These are back to the second half of Leanna's questions. Thank you for your patience. It did get interrupted by me answering to how I feel that the Edmonton Public School Board is being at best childish, at worst harmful, and needs to get inappropriate materials out of their schools, out of the school libraries right away. We have to make it age appropriate without a wild whipsaw reaction that's trying to drag everybody into some emotional nonsense. I'm going to get back to Leanna's questions, and her third was crime and homelessness. Her words, a city in crisis. And I hear that a lot. She asks about our high crime rate. What is my plan to reduce crime in a measurable and timely way? And how will I address the underlying causes of homelessness while keeping our community safe? And then the second question group was transparency, restoring trust with the citizens. Do I believe that the current council has failed in its duty to be transparent and accountable? If elected, what specific actions will I take to rebuild trust and maintain open communication with the residents? And how will I ensure that citizens receive honest, timely information on critical city matters? I'll circle back real quick up to crime and homelessness. Crime, I will give credit where credit's due. The numbers have come down in Red Deer. We have seen a noticeable reduction in crime. However, as a business student, finance and economics student, I know that the numbers don't tell the whole story. If the crime goes down, does the crime go down because criminals have left or criminals have just decided, oh yeah, you know what, you were right, I shouldn't commit crimes? Or are there other confounding factors? Confounding factors such as we now have areas where people don't walk. We now have areas and times where people don't go. We potentially report less. We let crimes go on and people go, oh yeah, I got robbed, but why bother reporting it? Nobody's going to do anything about it. There are definitely some factors. I'm not taking away. I think that the police force has done a better job. I think that the city can do a better job of directing the police force. We need a multifaceted strategy. When you're looking at a city of 100,000 people, it's pretty easy to focus on those high risk people and the high risk areas. There is nobody who can tell me that they don't know roughly where the crime is happening and they don't know roughly who's doing it. The police have this information, and I'm sure then the city has this information. I am speculating a bit on that because I don't know the full channel of communication that way. However, if we are to say, all right, police force, RCMP, and the peace officers play a very important role in this. Here's where we have high crime. Here's where we have high instances. I would like increased patrols, increased intervention, increased community involvement. That's a big one where local policing doesn't have to be heavy-handed, doesn't have to be hardline, but it has to be there. And it has to be a presence and there has to be consequences. So we have to say, if you're going to commit a crime, we're not just going to let you off. We're going to make you walk through the process. I will caution this. Do not think for 1 minute that I'm advocating for a higher rate of incarceration. I know that our prison system, which is well beyond what I can influence as a city councillor, however, I can start working on finding where to influence that. I know that our prison system is a failure. It's absolutely terrible. It's a revolving door. All people do is they spend time in there learning how to commit higher crimes, higher problems, get into worse drugs, get into gang violence. So I'm not advocating for that. I am advocating for rehabilitation. But rehabilitation takes a lot of work, and that takes a concerted effort from the city and the leadership. We will use an enforcement strategy, don't get me wrong, but it just won't be indiscriminately. And then, you start with higher levels of prevention and outreach. You start at the schools. I remember as a kid, the police would come around and it was to talk to the kids and see how things are going and say, hey, stay in school, kids, and things like that. The vast majority of the students that I've talked to said that the only time that they see police presence or something is when the school's in lockdown. Well, let's up that. And again, I'm not saying that it's all in one or the other. I know that it does happen. I'm just saying we need more of it. And then we modify the environment. This one's a really great. I read a study that it was a study of a couple of other studies where when you increase the greenery, as it were, and you clean up the mess and you clean up the garbage, people in the area respond accordingly. It's sort of the emotional object in motion stays in motion, object at rest stays in rest. If your object in motion is a community-minded cleanup, let's get this area nice, fix broken windows, get rid of the unattractive graffiti, get rid of the mess, make sure there's more garbage cans. Something so simple as more garbage cans. Disney figured that out. Why can't the city, right? So we can clean things up. You keep hedges trimmed. You keep areas where it gets dark. You have better lighting. You have better patrols in those areas. None of this is really particularly hard all on their own, but it takes a concerted effort, and that requires council to create policies that guide and set targets that say, okay, I want X percentage of reduction of crime year over year. That's the kind of KPI that really matters. And for those who don't know, I apologize for using the occasional acronym. KPI is a key performance indicator. It's what we measure against. When you say, here's my target, I want the key performance indicator behind it. So another thing that we can do is rely on data and evaluate that data in a smarter way. Part of the KPMG report that came out about the city's finances, economics is economics. Whether you're talking money or whether you're talking people, whether you're talking education, it all comes down to the numbers. How we implement it does require a certain amount of emotional maturity and emotional grace to navigate those waters, but it comes down to the numbers. And if you try to skew the numbers, you will run into problems. So right now, Red Deer doesn't have a very, I'll call it, smart way of evaluating big numbers. Something so simple as you drive down 32nd to go all the way across town. Sometimes you can hit it and you go the speed limit and you hit every green light and you're fine. Sometimes you hit it, you go the speed limit, you hit every red light. Sometimes you go and it's miss or match. Sometimes you go and you can go below it, you can go above. There's all kinds of, like, when you look at good numbers and good definitions, that's how another way of cleaning up the city is, let's cut back stop and go traffic. I know it doesn't have anything to do with the crime, but it pops in where smarter is more efficient. More efficient is cheaper. Cheaper is cleaner. Cleaner is a better place for everybody here. So it's going to take a lot of complex ideas coming together and dovetailing to really formulate a big picture strategy. That's, again, some of the value that I bring is a lot of big picture strategy, a lot of risk assessment, a lot of execution plans. The next question was transparency, and as she says, restoring trust with citizens. And again, I've heard this quite a bit. Somebody at my work, just randomly, we're talking, even before I decided to run. It seems like the city council's always in camera, has too many in camera sessions. I don't like when people use sweeping terms like always or never. It seems like there's too many in-camera sessions. And specifically, Leanna's question is, I believe the current council has failed in its duty to be transparent and accountable. I don't want to run this campaign through the rear view mirror. I could have a very successful, I could easily garner votes by just saying, oh my, look what they've done wrong, or look at that. And I'm going to try to avoid that. And I do know that that's not what she was getting at, but I know some people are trying to do that in their discussions. I'm going to push this into what I offer. Transparency to me is critical in any leadership, and particularly a governance role. We have a responsibility to inform people of what we're facing and what we decided and why we decided to do it. I can't think of any major situation in history where it was a great idea to hide things from any of the key stakeholders. It just doesn't make sense. Then she goes on to ask, what will I specifically do? Well, I love the idea, and I do this again with my teams that I lead and groups that work with me. I love to have a 1 business day reply policy. If somebody comes to me and asks a question, Adam, I need XYZ, or why did you do this? Or in the case of council, I saw you voted this way. Why did you vote that? I will set on my personal rules of engagement to reply within 24 hours, one working business day kind of thing. Because, I mean, we all deserve weekends. If it's super critical, I work Saturdays. I do things. It's not a problem that way. And I will get back. And if my answer is, I don't know, I need more time, that's going to be my answer. If my answer for something very straightforward that, hey, Adam, you did this, why? I will have an answer for you. I promise that I will bring that level. Just because somebody comes to me with a concern and I don't understand the value of that concern doesn't make it less valuable. I need to find out what's going on here and how can I help. And then her last part is, how will I ensure citizens receive honest, timely information on critical city matters? I think the city does an okay job of communicating. I personally tend to be one of those people that look a little more often and dig a little deeper. However, I will push for less in-camera sessions. I don't think that governance needs to do in-camera. In-camera to me is the exception, not the rule. I want more publicly available information on multiple platforms, so then we can hit as many people as possible. Those are really, to me, the communication and the openness and the transparency is about, I work for you. It's not the other way around. It's not the people are there and council's here. Council governs city operations. Operations executes on behalf of the people. Council needs to be the steward of the finances and the execution. We all work for the people of the city because that's who we're serving. That's whose lives we're trying to make better. So again, that's hopefully a little bit shorter than my last one. And I really appreciate reaching out. Thank you so much, Leanna, for your questions. I've got a few more in the queue that I'm going to hammer out. And have a great day. Please stop by, visit adamgoodwin.ca. If you can, support me in skill sets, support me in advice and questions, support me financially. And together we will bring a little bit more experience, a little bit more professionalism, and that next level of operations to the city of Red Deer so that future generations have a phenomenal place to live. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. I appreciate you.